Welcome to the podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time, a CastSource family production. In this episode, we are going to talk about the art and athlete, culture in New York City. Our guest today is Zachary Hooks, a health and fitness trainer located in New York City. Zach is a motivated trainer focused on providing unique and fun experiences for his clients. He works closely with people of all ages and skill levels, including professional fighters, young athletes, and everyday people. His energy and impact is felt by so many, and this podcast will give you a taste of what we are talking about. Zach brings perspective of a trainer who understands that bettering yourself is needed to achieve growth. Zach's positive mindset and enthusiastic attitude will undoubtedly help any business owner. With a great amount of knowledge for the art of training as well as running a business, we are thrilled to have Zach on the podcast. Let's get into it. Zach, welcome to the Entrepreneur Perspectives podcast. Great to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. Sportrepreneur.
That's it.
Nice to be here, man.
Nice
to be here.
So we're going to start, as you know, with 10 questions requiring a more thoughtful response and end with 10 rapid-fire questions. You ready to get started?
You know I'm ready, man. I'm excited, man.
I'm ready. Born ready. All right. So you heard that intro about you, but of course we can't do you justice in one opening statement. So tell us something real about you that the audience doesn't know.
That doesn't know. I'm amused. I'm amused, man. I'm really, if you didn't know anything about me off the first interactions, that I'm an artist. I come from a big family of musicians and artists, and I think growing up, that's where I got that from. I've got 4 uncles that work for Sony. They were the producers for the song Poison. So it just goes as far as art, you know, humanities, aesthetics, music, like work, mind, body, relationships, like science, whatever it is, I'm kind of like into that. And that's just me. You know, I'll paint today. I'll play the piano tomorrow. I have a drum set, you know, and then I'll go out there and play football for maybe 3-4 hours. So I'm almost everywhere. I would say I'm an artist at heart, and art is life. So that's kind of like, a lot of people just think I'm a trainer or that, you know, the UFC fighter guy who's working with all the guys, but in actuality, I'm an artist at heart. So I think that would be it, for sure. I think that'd be I'm an artist.
So you like to create. Well, it's funny. My mother's an artist, and and watching, my wife is writing songs right now. So you take all that, and I think it's just amazing that an artist, like you talked about before, gets to create something. And if no one even consumes that, whatever that is, a piece of art, a music, they still have what they created forever. And their kids or grandkids or people, their friends might have it. So I agree with you. And that's a big reason we got into, not to make this about us, but we got into the creation of content for a lot of what you're just talking about, because when you create something, it's yours, and there's really no worst case scenario with that. So I'm assuming that's kind of where you're at in your life, as like you said, as a muse, and just being everywhere in the creation of in the art creation, right?
I definitely agree with that. And it's cool though. Like a lot of times I see it all the time with working with clients and going around, and now I see it. It's beginning to ascend. It's beginning to become popular now. Is that you have to love what you do. So if you're in a pottery and that's kind of corny or that's not fun for some people, if you like it and you make a couple bowls and you have a couple stuff and you sell it now, it may not sell for like $1 million like art at an art gallery, but it's yours, and then, maybe your friends kind of support you, but even it's not for the money. The art, it's like literally for you. Like she has songs that she can now like just sing for herself. It's almost like therapeutic. And that stuff begins to go a long way, particularly like if you really enjoy it and you start to invest in it. Like some people go to the gym. Some people, write, like to sit in front of a piano and like write songs or not even write them, just play around. Or you go to a jazz bar, you can see how far that can take you. It's so fun. And I think people are really starting to come back. I think it was lost a little bit as far as like people can turn things into businesses and stuff like that and hustle and grind. Now it's like, hey, look, listen, my mom can really sing. Like if you walk in there and you hear her when she's just washing dishes, it's like, you really can sing. And it's cool.
Yeah.
It's genuine. It's like memories, it's the funniest thing. One of my coworkers, I work in Manhattan, and one of my coworkers in Manhattan, she's just singing, and I just turned around. I'm like, hey, you really can sing. And
Yeah.
she's just like, oh, and for me, it's like, oh, she's a songbird. So all my friends that can sing, I always try not to put them on the spot, but I enjoy it. I come from a family of musicians, so it's like I want to hear you guys sing, or I want to see you paint, or like I want to hear your poetry. I want to check out your website. Instagram is such a great way. You know, you can do the vanity part and take a million selfies, or you could actually like put your artwork up there. You know, Facebook, you can kind of like let people know how you're doing, but hey, boom, I can also put some of my poetry there, or you can write an article. I think that's the great thing, and that's what brought me. So it is going to be about you, Portraitpreneur. That's what actually really just blew me away when I went to you guys' Instagram page and I went to see what you guys were building, your content as a sports guy. You know, even though the artist is buried underneath the sports guy in me, it just solidified the way you guys were just giving amazing views and points and topics and muses as far as like things to look at. And I could argue about sports all day, but you know, the intellectual part of good conversation, that's refreshing to see. And so
yeah, so that was an Instagram where you saw this? Is this, we've talked about this in the past, right? So you saw our post on Instagram is okay, because that's important for people to understand. Like where are people like you and I connecting, and you know, how can other people do something similar with someone else? So you saw our content, I think our images, and then the actual articles within Instagram. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep. I actually saw an Instagram post, and I think the picture. Because the artist in me, the picture was very, you know, great picture. I clicked on that, but the content, like I said, and then I was able to read the content, and it was so, you know, it was so good that I went to the comments, and then I was looking at the conversation in the comments that I went back and went to, I think there was a link posted, and the link then took me to the podcast. So for me, it was like within a subway ride, I was pissed off that I was losing service because I was just trying to get all of it. So you know, I've got like a 30-minute commute from New York City, Freedom Towers. I was training some of the firefighters, and so I'm coming back from the city. It's about a 30-minute ride, 30-minute commute. And just in the beginning, you know, you go into the tunnels, you lose that service. And I was just like, oh man, hurry up and get up, you know, get above ground so I could read this. It was cool when I was saving stuff and liking it. And that's the cool thing about it. It's like we now have the ways and you have so many ways and platforms. Like you have Instagram, and if what you guys wanted to put out there spoke so much towards me that I had to kind of just like take it all in. So I literally think I wrote like, man, listen, I love you guys stuff. Like I just had to let you know that.
Yeah, you did.
No,
we appreciate that, and even more though, it's just proof that, you know, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, you're in New York City, we can connect through Instagram, because people all the time say, like, you know, I just don't see how Instagram's going to help my business. And it's amazing how brands and companies can find out about each other if you do good work, right? And that's the hard part. But yeah, no, and that's awesome for you to say that. So as we kind of like talk about the work that you do and the good work that you do as a fitness trainer, what is your focus and what's your ultimate goal for the business and then yourself?
As far as the business, first and foremost, it's growth, and the name of my company is Art and Athlete. So there's really beauty in everything that we do. So first and foremost is just really understanding, giving people the ability to realize how valuable and important your life is. It's big time, particularly with health, mental health, physical health, wellness. It's beginning to almost get watered down. You know, it can be some vanity in there. It could be like, you know, the multiple selling of supplements and products. I'm not really about that. I'm really about people creating the best life that they can create for themselves in all aspects. Again, how that looks. So, you know, that's first and foremost, educating people and letting them know, hey, look, this is how good your body's supposed to feel. This is how it's supposed to operate. This is where it goes. And so as I build my clientele and I work with my clients, that's my main goal. That's my mission statement, you know, the beauty of life. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. So unfortunately, I just had to pull out of the New York City Marathon.
Right.
But to let people know that, you know, every day you get to keep running towards your goals and running towards those things. I think that's where I'm building my business too. And just one client at a time. I started with me and my best friend Hassan Atkins. We created Authentically Well. We branched out and we have our own entities now. And that was our first. I remember maybe 10 years in high school. I remember it was, and we just said it. We said, hey, look, listen, if we could open like a wellness center or a gym and just help the community, that would be like dope. That would be really awesome. And I think we were getting ready to go to college, and he eventually went to Stony Brook. I went to St. Augustine. I ended up going to Old Westbury. He ended up transferring to Stony Brook, but that just came through. And then as we went through college and we, finished school and became business professionals, it was like, hey, look, listen, this can really happen. This is like sometimes you get caught up with like business, and it's like how I'm going to compete against the Equinox or Gold's Gym, and then you realize like, hey, you take those small steps. You become a trainer, you get certified, you get your degrees going, you stay in the work, you internship. I think Hassan interned with Dr. Camp, one of the top in Long Island, working with Andre Harrison, the fighter. And we just build that rapport to now we were able to help our clients in whatever they need. So, that's high blood pressure, hey, it's all right. If that's a lacrosse player working on his core strength because he had a knee injury and he's been sitting down for the whole summer, then that could be it. Or if it's that mom wanting to get into that new dress, or she just wants to go dance at the family reunion, that is it too. And one of my good clients, Kenya, who was a warrior, man, she just had a wedding. She wanted to get into, she wanted to be able to be in that dress for wedding day. So you have all these scenarios of where health really is a lifestyle and not just a fad, not a facade, not a 3-week program. And I think that's where my business is, just helping educate and give that to people in its simplest, truest, organic form, because it's so much. And I just try to simplify that. And the most important part, allow people to have fun with that. We get to have fun, and it's a power of choice.
Yeah. So. Well, no, that's amazing too. What you say about one at a time, and you just identified multiple people that you work with in all different situations, where the niche that you're in is very defined in that it's all about having a better life and believing in what you can do and all those different things. And in many ways, scaling the unscalable. It's meeting one person at a time and making their life better and then moving on to the next one. And obviously you're having multiple go on at the same time. And I think that's pretty awesome in a time where everyone's trying to get thousands of clients every minute. And you're like, hold on a second, let's pump the brakes here. And let me just go help this one person. And if I help this one person, it's going to help them, it's going to help me, and then it's going to build out from there, right?
Exactly. So that's exactly what it is. And initially, the crazy aspect of business is when you first get in there, it's like, oh man, I want to have a bunch of, somebody says, well, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a lot of clients. And there was a change for me, as far as like when you really begin to really see what the work is and you build those relationships. And then it says, well, look, listen, I'm a personal trainer, but like, what's in it? Like, why do you do this? Yeah. And just to be 100% honest and be in complete, authenticity, there's a lot of trainers who just train, and there's no knock to them. Business is business. But the relationships that I've had over my years, it became a passion, like to really help people.
Yeah.
In my experiences and what I've went through as a person, as a young adult, in business, in friendships, in family, and building my brand and building my business, I said, man, there is so much more to it than this lady just paying me for my package and I'm making sure she's, and she's in good shape. It's a relationship that you build. It's a relationship that you foster. This summer it was really, I felt so touched. I felt so humbled to see like vacation pictures. There's at 3:30 in the morning because some of my clients are like in vacation overseas.
Sure.
So, one morning I woke up like angry, like who is texting me? And it's like 8 pictures of one of my clients because she's around the world on vacation time, and she's running and rock climbing and kayaking. And I just remember her telling me a story about how she was scared to swim at the rec pool. And I'm like, oh, you're canoeing and you're going surfing, and she just felt a different energy. And so now pictures of her and her family now turn into me asking about, hey, we're rescheduling next week because, she's dropping the kids off to college. And now, it's a question of, hey, how's he doing? How's he acclimating in college? Because guess what? I have a brother and sister. My brother plays football for New Haven, and he's got a twin sister. She's in Townsend, so I can relate. So now it's just another whole page, and it's just like, you're human. And it's passion. You want to see people do well.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, you just want to see people do well. Like, it's a good feeling to say, hey.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to serve you well long term, because, as you know, all these industries are getting disrupted. Things are going to change. Your business, fitness is going to change. Wellness is going to change. But you have these long term relationships. So no matter what happens, whatever change you have people that are going to look to you, say, that's the guy that got me to where I am today. And what's he doing now? Because whatever he's doing, I believe in him, and I want to be a part of that. And it's amazing. You're going to be able to pivot into all different types of areas, whatever you want to do, because these people trust you. And that trusted relationship lasts a very long time, unless you give them a reason not to trust you, right? So it's pretty awesome. With obviously, we've already learned that you have a passion for what you do every day. You have a passion for creating, whether it's art, music, or anything else, or just dancing around and messing around. What other passions do you have? I know you're into sports, but what are some other passions that you have outside of your business?
Oh yes, that's sports. That's a big one. I don't want to overtake the podcast with sports.
That's okay. No, we like sports here.
I'm a big sports fan. So a big time sports fan. Where do I start? Laker fan, the Yankee fan, soccer, just all across the board. Like I can't say enough how much I love the game. And if you say, oh, what game? What's your favorite? Basketball is my favorite. But just sports in general, and what it's done for me on the surface area, I just love to compete. Like, listen, I'll put my mouthpiece in and spar with you today, and turn around and put my cleats on and go to battle with you on the soccer field tomorrow. But I'll sit down with an hour and a half and learn how to play Quidditch real quick if I need be, And I'll just wax you up in rock paper scissors to keep it simple. Like, I just love to compete. Everything, man. Dodgeball, volleyball, even on training my clients. Like, I have a lot of girls in soccer, lacrosse, football, basketball. Even tennis. I just was at the U.S. Open with Serena and watching Venus and Stevens, which was an awesome match. I just love sports, man, and I'm a Laker fan at heart. So it's been a rough couple of years for us. But I'm excited about this season. I just got my tickets to the Kobe Bryant retirement jersey game December 18th versus the Warriors. So he's got NFL football popping off. It's going crazy. College football has been spectacular. The games have been, like, every game has been pretty good, like top to bottom.
Yeah.
Not. And then even down to, like I said, to the amateurs. I get a chance to watch my clients just grow. There's kids that I coached that were 6 years old, Baldwin Bombers. They're now graduated from high school and they're in your senior year of college playing football. I just was in New Haven watching my brother play football and his best friend, and just kind of like following them on Instagram and on the internet, and on looking at highlights on different like outlets. So sports is big for me. I grew up loving the game. I always loved the game. And mental health, too. That's another thing that almost just literally ties into kind of, health. The body only follows the mind. So I'm really active in that. Just trying to make sure, this workshop where there's like momentum education or like mentoring. These are things, Big Brother, these are programs that you really have kind of got pushed to the side, like Boys and Girls Club and things like that. It's weird because I remember growing up, there were just people who kind of stepped into my life, and you really don't see the effects that it has, like that investment. You don't see it right away, and as a kid, you don't even know. It's just like, oh, I just went out to, and hey, I met a nice guy who came into my classroom and made sure we were good. But in actuality, it goes a long way. So for me, like, I'm a big psychology guy. I actually went to APA in psychology when I was in high school for a project where we just went to a middle school and just we recorded like social activity and nuances of social science and things like that. So I'm really passionate about again, growth and change and how that looks, and whether that's like mentorship, the mind. Like I said again, the body only follows the mind. So mental health is big, and we see that with so much going on outside of sports. As serious as they kind of put that on there about having a good, strong mindset and having a mental attitude and staying tough. In sports, it's what if you don't play sports? What if you're a single mom on the subway? Just trying to make sure which is like, if you ride the subway in New York City at like 11:30, you kind of see there's nothing to be said. You can kind of just, if you just look on the subway and you see the people coming on and off, and you can just see what's going on. You may not fully understand or know what they're going through, but you can see, like, especially in New York, you see everything in New York. So to see the full spectrum, I think that's something I'm really passionate about. So.
Yeah, and we can tell. I mean, you bring it with everything you talk about, and that's why it was so important to have you on this podcast, because of the energy you bring to it and the passion that you have around everything that you do. It doesn't seem like you have a bad day, even when you come across something that is a negative. And to us, it's inspirational to us. So I know you're inspiring other people. I'm interested because on this podcast, we've had some people that are working with athletes, and I'm always fascinated by this type of question. You said you've worked with younger kids. And a lot of kids today are specializing in sports, and here you're telling me that you'll be boxing 1 minute, playing soccer the next minute, playing volleyball, running around, who knows what you're doing, learning a new sport, playing rocks, paper, scissors, right? What do you do with kids when they're a soccer star or a football player, as you've talked about? How do you handle their not becoming burned out, not getting injured because they're playing on the same sport? Or do you believe that that specialization is important in sports? Like, what's your take on all that?
My take is, so I say mastery. Mastery is like, do you know yourself? And I say everybody's different. What I think in sports, when we get these specialized, I call them like prodigies. We'll say, oh man, this kid is like he's just a beast in lacrosse. So he just focuses on lacrosse, and so like night in, night out, every day, 24/7, and. I've actually told parents, I say, hey, look, listen, is this a lifestyle for him? And if it is, can they handle that? Because everybody is different. Every kid is different. And I really take it just, it's almost like a well-tailored suit. Everybody's different. So it's kind of hard to say if there's a cookie cutter, but when I've had a lot of parents just come up and say, look, listen, he's going to lacrosse, full ride, he's already created, we're going to specialize in this. And I say, okay, fine. If that's, because at the end of the day, all I can do is just give them my, what I believe in and my opinion, and it's feedback. So I say it's a feedback. Can they handle it? Because I work with professional athletes. I've worked with them top to bottom. So the parent that comes up to me and says, hey, look, listen, I've got a prodigy here for him. Let's specialize. I say, okay, let's see. Because, if we want to master what we're doing and put the work in 10,000 hours, he's still a child, still a kid. So is he mastering becoming a professional lacrosse player? Is he mastering becoming a college star at 12, 13 years old? Is this 8-year-old are we really preparing him to be a 27-year-old LeBron James? Mm-hmm. Can it be done? Of course. But where are they at? Maturation process. Where are the parents at? In my experience, it's never the child. Who do you think it is?
Yep, it's the parents.
It is the parents. So for me, I love that. I love when the parent comes in and says, because I said, listen, we get to have accountability conversations. We get to have responsibility conversations. We get to have conversations around relationships. How does his nutrition look like? How does his schedule look like? If I look up in this kid, I've had a kid come in at the gym and he worked his ass off. Jordan worked his butt off, and he had just moved up from JV to varsity, and he was he's not the tallest kid, but man, he's got some dog in him. He works hard. He just was at the NFL the Hall of Fame youth games, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And he's great, exceptional. And I just remember there was maybe 3 or 4 sessions that were not going what I like. I got, he'd given me an attitude. He wasn't crisp, and usually he's sharp. He's at it, and I just said, hey, listen, I stopped the session maybe about 15 minutes in, and I said, hey guys, we're done. And it was like, no, we're gonna push through it. We're gonna change the attitude. And I said, no, today we're done. Like, we're done. You guys are going to, we're gonna shut it down. You guys are gonna go home. So, they pouted, they cried, they went to the locker room, they changed. So, the family member comes up and he says, what happened? I've been talking to him about it. I said, you don't need to talk to him about anything other than letting him be a kid. He got up at 6:30 this morning. He went to school. He got out of school. He went to practice. He got out of practice and came straight here. I said, this guy is a freshman in high school. I said, I don't even have my athletes on the schedule like that.
Right.
But I said this is how you get burned out. We put these expectations on these kids and we forget that they are a child. Now, if they were 23, 24, we have a different conversation. But with the youth, the parents often forget that they are children, and I think that's the biggest thing. And for every LeBron James and Tiger Woods that we see on ESPN and they get idolized as becoming a star very fast, I always want to stress and continue, for every one of them, how many did not? For every one LeBron James, how many children burned out? How many children stopped playing the sport because it was too much pressure?
Right.
Things like that come up. So,
yep.
And that's happened. I personally had 2 clients that had their best seasons ever and quit. And their father just, for almost 3 weeks straight, just called me. I don't know why he quit. I don't know why he quit. And I'm sitting on the phone. I said, look, let's just have an honest conversation. He doesn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
That's just that simple. He doesn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And I, because we didn't make it fun for him.
Yeah.
We didn't make it fun. So I think that's a big part of it.
Well, and that goes to what you're talking about, which is the art in athlete. And you touched on this before, what that is all about. And I think that's one of the difference makers you have going for yourself is the conversation that we just had, or what you were just telling me, and how to make it fun and how to create and make it something enjoyable. That's a journey. That's a lifelong journey that you can commit to. But get into it real quick. You've already touched on the art and athlete, but I think it's really important because when we first interacted, I was confused by it. But I'm going to say this. I think it's good to be confused because when it's so obvious, then I can make my judgment on what you do. But when I'm confused, now I need to have that aha moment. So I want to have that aha moment with you now. What does the art and athlete really mean in the simplest term?
The art and athlete, there's art. The art and athlete means it's art in everything. Again, ironic that I just pulled out a marathon, but it's a marathon and not a sprint. So you're really running towards what makes you happy, your happiness. And so for me, like with the artist, like sometimes you paint. When you paint, you use your palette. And that comes. There's different shades, there's different colors, there's different paints, there's different ideas, and that's like walk down the middle of NYC. That's what I see. I see different shades. I see different colors. I see different paints. And the coolest thing, the most vibrant thing is you get to see different energies and you get to see different people's joy, different people's happiness. So what makes you happy? What is that for you? And where does that come from? How does that serve you? And what's your relationship with that? Do you like to just cut up and dance? My friends know me as a dancer, but then they turn around and they'll see me as a, laser sharp, serious guy with other things. It's such so much as a collective. And if you keep running towards that and your happiness and enjoying that, and you paint these pictures, that's the beauty of it. And there's beauty in everything. So, I hear this a lot. You even mentioned it. You said, exactly, it's like you never have a bad day. Sheesh. There are some bad days. But you get to realize that, the cliche line is the silver lining. But I just say it's just the art of it. Like, I just was talking with one of my good friends and one of my guys, Andre Harrison. He just lost one of his sponsors to cancer. and he passed last Thursday. I was teaching a boot camp, and it's weird because I was speaking to it Saturday, and then my stepmother, she just, in vulnerability and just being open, she said, I actually just, I haven't told anybody yet, but I'm battling cancer, and we're just going through tests. And I said, wow, like, it was almost like she dropped the bomb on me. I said, wow, that's crazy. Like, you didn't tell anybody, but that was her, like, just being open and being vulnerable and being authentic. And you say, like, the art, that's the beauty of everything. Even at your darkest moments, you can learn, and you can turn negatives into positives. So what's black and what's monochromatic is black, white, and gray. As an artist, you turn around and you can still sketch that from a pencil. From a pencil, you now go get paint. From paint, you now go get a canvas. And from a canvas, you sit back and you stare at a white wall for 45 minutes and you say, what am I going to put on this wall? What are you going to put on your life? What are like sometimes we get up and we say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? And so once you find that passion, once you find that beauty, you begin to just do whatever. You get to create whatever you want. You want to start a business? Then let's start a business. And how does that look? That's the beauty of it. You get to create whatever you want. I don't think any successful person just woke up and said, they just luckily found what they were doing.
Right.
It became a passion. They played with. I tell people, if you paint something, you better. You always see an artist or a painter. They have like paint all over their clothes, and I've painted stuff and like my fingernails. I've had to wash my hands for like 20 minutes, like getting paint after fingernails, and you're getting it on your clothes. So now you have your paint jeans, and it's like you get messy. You get to be messy, and people shy away from that. Everybody wants to be Muhammad Ali, but nobody wants to fight George Foreman. And so sometimes you have to put these lessons that you learn through sacrifice and doing what you love, experiences you take from them, and like a muse, they become your paintings, they become your pictures. And then you keep painting, you keep working, you keep creating art, you keep singing, you keep dancing, you keep dropping content. You are artists. Like, you're an artist. I can turn around, I can tell you, hey, look, I love your artwork. You say, what artwork? Your content. Like, I read 30 minutes of your content on my phone. I saved all the pictures. I could go back and I could just read all of them, down to the comments. And it was inspiring for me. It was engaging for me. And now it allows me to do the artwork that I do, the work that I do. And you always want to stay in the work. So for me, that's the art and athlete. There's art in everything. There's beauty in everything. And you get to choose and you get to create. So
I love it.
I think
How
that's
do you,
where that came from.
I mean, you have us convinced, and I know people that are listening are convinced. So now they take it to the next step, and let's look at the marketing angle of this. How do you get across, and I get it, you're doing this one by one, right? You meet this person, they love what you do, they introduce you to their friend or whatever. How do you get across your passion, your energy, what it is you do to people that don't know you, which is what marketing's all about? How do you get that across? And what's your take on it, right? The whole marketing world's all changed, and you've already touched on it with Instagram. And sorry to interrupt, but like, how do you put all that together for you in such a passionate role that you play?
I think it's in your ways of being and in your relationships. So for me right now, I'm actually exploring like new ways of marketing and like advertising, because right now for me, they often say, what's the best advertising? What's the best marketing? It's word of mouth. So, but as things change, word of mouth becomes, pretty powerful when, your client puts up a picture of her in a wedding dress, or she Snapchats it, and, I look up, I've got like 80 messages and trying to figure out what location. Am I in Brooklyn? Am I in Dumbo? Am I in Manhattan? So for me right now, it's just in ways of being, and how does that look? And that's what I say, an authentic relationship. It always starts with that one for me. So it's always just a one-on-one experience, even though that may be kind of outdated as much as right now. But I always keep it simple. I keep it authentic. It's like, hey, look, listen, let's talk. Let's sit down. Let's come up with what our end goal is and build from there. And that's just being true to the relationship of like that. It's a lifestyle. and it's that person. So that's where the marketing for me comes through. I do use my Instagram, but as I said, now this is the cool thing about business. I'm now learning new ways to create content and advertise myself, because guess what? I'd be, maybe I may not be maximizing my time just sitting with one person all the time and building up. Now it's like, how do I use my Instagram? How do I give out this content? How do I use my artwork, my photography to now send around? We did a photo shoot with Everlast. So like, how does that those MMA pictures allow other, amateurs and boxers to kind of understand, hey, look, listen, maybe I do need to be doing some rehabilitative correctional work with my shoulder blade, or, hey, listen, Zach, I saw Conor McGregor's jokes about him stretching, but I see you doing that for years. What is that about? So the content of social media, one-on-one, building relationships, word of mouth is where I'm at now, but now I begin to use my website and do, partner up with like Nike and partner up with Adidas and Team USA Youth Development Basketball, and just see where that goes and build on that. So
no, I get it. So how do you?
It's weird.
How does that work out then when it comes to the competition? I mean, you're in New York City. It's one of the most competitive environments in the world, right? And we've talked about this before. I could right now. We can hang up from here, and I could go become a fitness trainer. And there's nothing stopping me from doing that. And that's what people are doing, right? And that's okay. And that's a great thing. I think that's an amazing thing in this country, that you can go out and, like you said before, you can go build a business tomorrow. But then there's people like you that are doing it the right way, that are incredible, but I don't know you, right? Let's say I don't know you. In the competition that exists out there, how do you differentiate yourself from all the people that, let's say someone is out there with 200,000 followers on Instagram and, they're getting their message across like they're the trainer to use. How do you compete with that?
Number one, I love to compete, and that's New York City. So you have it, and I think, like I said, for me, initially when I got into the business, I literally said that. I said, how are we going to compete? Everybody, it's like when you first start, you don't know any trainers, and then you become a trainer, and you say, shit, everybody's a trainer, and then anybody who knows art knows Instagram and Polaroid. Back in the day, it was for art and photography. And boy, did that change. Now Instagram's used as a social platform, and everybody is a fitness specialist or trainer or knows somebody or a model. And so it's like, how do I compete with all this? And I just say in simple, when you authenticity. I go back to it. My craft, the work that I put in, the hours. Who better than myself to know the work that I put in? And that's just delivering high quality service. And I think in the health and wellness, it's very easy to see. The pictures. I tell people, I say, look, listen, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but there is no price on your life. And I tell people all the time, I don't play with people's lives. I don't play with people's lives. I took a great workshop, and we did something, and it was mentioned to me. They was like, hey, look, listen, you don't want to be a reluctant superhero. And so I take that approach as that, hey, look, listen, this is as serious as a heart attack. I lost 2 grandparents to strokes. Again, which is something we'll probably touch on later. I've had some experiences where I say, hey, look, listen, this is not about getting money. This is about helping people's lives. And I think authenticity is key. If you see me, if you speak to me, if you look at my content, I'll just send you right to my website, and I'll say, hey, look, listen, you can talk to my clients, you can talk to my referrals, you can talk to, you go on LinkedIn, you can go on Instagram, you can go on my Facebook, talk to people. I think that would serve you better. I'll talk to you, but just to see what you're getting into, because I think the product speaks for itself. And is it authentic? You want to lose 11 pounds? Okay, go buy $80 worth of supplements and see, is that really going to help you? Or can we really make an investment in your life where you now say, hey, this works for me?
Yeah, wasn't this when we started talking, wasn't this one of the stories that you talked about? Because you're talking about being authentic, and this goes back to the story that you told us that affected you, I know, greatly, and it affected all of us that you've told this story to. And I think you need to tell that story now because it was a very authentic moment for you. And I think it speaks volumes as to all the stuff that you're saying, because a lot of people can get on here and say all the things that you're saying, right? I think you and I both agree with that, but it's actually, do you live that? Do you live what you're saying? And I know you do, and I think this story tells that story, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, so I think we'll talk about Melanie Darren's. Melanie Darren's this is what literally changed my attitude on that. So I was working as a substitute teacher and a personal trainer, and I had my clients at Greensboro Sports Complex. And it's a big complex, lots of kids, lots of teams. North Carolina has a lot of great high school programs. They're very big, very different from New York. New York has, high school sports. It's it brings some noise, but it's nothing like the South as far as their athletic programs. So you have a lot of stuff going on, and you also have a lot of college kids. So I'm just working, and as far as basketball and footwork and specialization, that's a lot of people will come for me and for that player development, and that was the niche that I built. And I just remember there was a younger, she was fairly older, but a younger lady just was at the top of the building, just constantly staring down, looking at me. And so it almost became like a running joke, almost for like maybe 4 to 5 months, maybe. Like I'm just sitting there. I'd always look up. She'd always be there. And then she'd always be looking at me. So I'm doing my footwork. I'm working with my soccer players, working with my football guys, working with my basketball guys. And, I just heard through the grapevine, they said, hey, man, that lady, she's really kind of rude. She's not the nicest, yada, yada, yada. And I never forget it. I remember turning to one of my coworkers and I said, you know what? Because I don't do well with that, like I'm kind of like a straightforward energy type of guy. And I'm not saying you have to be optimistic all the time. I can we can all get serious when we want to, but I just say, hey, with my clientele and who I work with, I like good vibes. So, if she's a nasty one, I'll never train her, man. I don't do well with nasty people. Even, that's just not the work I like to do. And sure enough, a couple months later, man, she walked down and, she asked me, she said, that she was interested in some sessions. And so I said, okay, well, it's a little later. I was actually playing basketball and I was kind of into it. So I was trying to almost like brush her off, to be honest with you, kind of like brush her off. And I remember saying, hey, look, listen, well, if you want to work with me, I've got a list. And, it costs this much, and let's just book you a time, and I'll get back to you. And she said, oh, I did that already. She had paid already. She had given them times that worked for us already. And that kind of threw me. It was very proactive of her, and it opened my eyes. And I just remember everybody telling me, like, hey, she's nasty. She wasn't nasty at all. She was almost very, like, she was coming straight forward at me, and I like that. That intensity, that fire, I can work with that. So I was almost like, hey, you paid already. Well, how on a scale of 1 to 10, like, how serious are you? Because a lot of people want a trainer until they get a trainer and realize the work that needs to be done. So, she was like, hey, well, if I could we go today? If not, I'd like to come Saturday morning. And I said, ooh, Saturday morning, pretty packed. I said, she named the time. 7 o'clock. We usually don't open till 8. So that means I'd have to open the gym early, get there early. Now I'm kind of going out my way for this client that I heard did not have a bad rep. And so lo and behold, I said, you know what? Let's do it. I get there early. I eat my breakfast. I take my Uber there early. I get there. I'm on time. I'm setting all up. I'm eating my oatmeal, drinking my beet juice. And sure enough, she walks in with her daughter. And, you just see people walk through the door. You don't think anything of it. So I said, okay, she's here. I got the text message, opened the door, walked out. And she was taking just a little longer than I expected for her to come. I'd opened the door and saw her. And as I doubled back, I walked back. She's walking her daughter, her 6-year-old blind daughter. Her 6-year-old blind daughter, Melanie Darwin's. I never forget it like yesterday. And just, children, I'm a young guy. I'm 29 now, but at the time, it was just like children have a different effect on you. Their energy, their vibrancy, their talking, like what they're saying. And it just blew me away. And I looked up at her. I said, she did not tell me she was blind. And so she had been basically scouting me for weeks, months on footwork. Her 6-year-old daughter had a car accident, and so her equilibrium was off, and she with noise and things of that nature, she just was having a hard time walking, and took her to physical therapy, and they did all these programs and working with it, and nothing was working. So the mom was just trying to find something to work, and she said, "I've seen your footwork, I've heard about you, and I just want to try it out with you." And we worked our ass off, and it was one of the most eye-opening experiences that I've ever had. I literally took fitness and wellness for granted, and I just remember, like, as it's almost, I can still hear it. It's like yesterday. She used to always ask me, "Why is your voice, Coach Zach, why is your voice so funny?" And it's because with my voice, I was crying, and she can't see me crying, but like, I'm clearing my throat. Clearing my throat, making sure I enunciate correctly, talking slower, like just kind of cueing and emphasizing things as a trainer that you just take for granted. Like, there's been so many times where I said, "Hey, grab the 20-pound dumbbells," and turn around to go grab a water. No, not this time. It was just like such an intimate, quiet gym. And the first week was just the parents, and then by like week 4, she's starting to get this. It's less stumbling. She's getting more. She's brave now. She's trying new stuff. She was very cautious, and if it was too loud, like say they went to a grocery store, she was so apprehensive and so nervous she wouldn't walk. She was starting to have anxiety attacks. She was getting her confidence up. By week 4, the aunt had came. I think one of the cousins from South Carolina had driven up one time, and it was such a blessing for me in disguise. The Darwin's family, I love them so much. I thank them for that, for taking the opportunity to trust me with their daughter. Again, that was one of the, to this day, goosebumps, still a little chilly, but the Darwins, Melody Darwin, she is a blessing, man. A 6-year-old blind girl trusted me with the ability to teach her how to walk. And my voice sounded like a frog because I was trying to go through a majority of this one. And so the funniest thing was I would finish up with her and I walk out straight to like basketball or football programs, and there's a bunch of these kids and they're just like, "Hey, do you have allergies? Like, why do you have allergies?" I just started falling out, and I remember getting headaches. I would have to drink coconut and water because I think I was just crying so much that like I was getting a headache going into my next session, and I would trade it. I would do it all over again in the world. That was that was the beauty of it, man.
That's amazing. Well, we need more people like you, that's for sure. And I think if you were to ask them, it would go on the flip side as well about how you didn't listen to what everybody else was saying. And you took a chance on this woman, and it happened to be her blind daughter, and it's just, I don't know what else you can say, right?
Yeah. And the thing about it is, like I said, I didn't even want it. Yeah. Like the naivety, and that's what happens in the fitness world. You say, "Hey, look, listen, there's so much going on. Like, what makes you different from anybody else?" Like that right there, that the work that you do is what makes you different in your ways of being. Like, do you want to help? Or, is it real? Does it work? Results. Will it translate? Is the relationship something that people can trust? Because if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. So it's like all that ties into it, and it was a great lesson for me.
Well, you know what it is? It's the culture that she saw that you bring to the table. Like, if you're a large company, you can have an incredible culture. If you're a sports team, you could have an incredible culture. But she saw something that you were doing, which is the way you do it, and it all ties into the culture that you create. Even you can do this in a single person business, right? And we wrote an article about that on Sportspreneur. You might have seen it, right? The great company culture always wins. And you and I have talked about it. You've talked about it with John, who's one of our social media producers at KSCM. But when you look at teams and businesses that have great culture in the locker room versus teams that don't have the great culture, like, I'm assuming to you, like, culture has to be one of the number one things that you think about every day. And obviously they saw this, but I'm asking you now, like, what is your take on culture?
Oh, that's Mike. I'm trying to figure out another word to say from that because I say that word so much. In sports, you hear it all the time. But for me, I've always said that. I said, with business, it's infrastructure and culture. And then I guess that may have come with sports, with like again, teaching 6-year-olds, NYCFL Baldwin Bombers, my internship with the New York Dragons, my opportunity to work with Nike All-Star Weekend 2015 in New York City, Reebok, went from top to bottom. You realize, you say, hey, look, listen, what's the energy? Like, what's the vibe? What's expected from me here? What are we looking to do? What's our identity? What's our purpose? And once you begin to find your identity, your purpose, your passion for what you're doing, that exposure, whether you want it to or not, it begins to happen. And then the excellence, the synergy, the giving back, the strength in numbers, the wisdom of others, the diverse and solid relationships that build, that you foster, that grow. Those relationships, man, they exponentially add up. And so that energy, like, imagine going to work and you see somebody like not working. You may have a propensity to not work. Like, I don't care how much like, if you come to work for 21 straight days and you see nobody working, day 22, there's a strong probability that you won't work. If you come to work and there's a bad, negative attitude, it's contagious. I always say energy is contagious. And, I think Einstein actually has the scientific formula for that. If anybody can still remember in physics, but that energy is actually infectious. It's contagious. It's a catalyst. So culture, what you build, I mean, Knicks fans, talk to me. Lakers fans, talk to me. Cleveland fans, talk to me. From top to bottom. And sometimes you wonder, and there's no knock to anybody in the organizations or anything, but I'm just going to use examples. You say, hey, look, listen, why are certain teams, even if they don't win the championship, still moving in excellence? You see a guy like Greg Popovich. You see, and they're taking people from all around the world, people who don't even speak English, different languages, and they're still, even if they're not winning the championship, they're still one of the top 3 teams in the East, and most importantly, they're one of the most feared. Well, let me correct that. They're one of the most respected. Any given night, no superstars, walk-ons. One of their best players in the playoffs paid $250 to join the team for the tryout. Simmons, he's now, I think he became a free agent and he's with Orlando. But to know that he had to pay to try out for the Spurs and plug and play, and they had him executing and performing at a high level. How does that happen? Is it just because he's a really hard worker and he's good, or is there like a structure? Is there a foundation? Is there a system? Is there a roadmap? Like, is there a blueprint? I strongly believe in that, and I think that's what culture is. If you don't have that, then what are you doing? Where's your leadership coming from? What are your, how can you leverage your natural groups to build a thriving organization? And so I'm trying not to get too wordy, but I just say culture is so big. I'm a big believer in culture and what you said. When you walk good, when you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you play good, is what they often say. And if you play really well enough, you get paid good. Well, I always say, listen, if the culture is good, everything is great. Yeah. People will enjoy what they do.
Well, when you say it well too, because you can win, and obviously if you exceed expectations and you win the championship, like you talk about in sports, chances are you had a really good culture. But like you just said, you could still have excellence even if you don't win the championship or get the biggest deal or have the greatest company in the world. You're still on that journey that you're talking about in life to have this incredible success because you have this incredible culture. And yeah, you need the hard workers that you're talking about, like Simmons. I think it takes 2 to tango, right? So you have to bring that person in, and they have to have that, and they have to fit the culture. If they don't fit the culture, it's going to be obvious, and someone like Greg Popovich is going to be like, not happening here. Go to the next team. But if he sees it, all of a sudden, then you plug him into that culture, and it's like, this guy can thrive here to a level he's never thrived before.
And I always say, look, think of it like this. So you have Greg Pop, but there's like another great one I love, and they're getting a lot of heat right now. But I love the culture that the Golden State Warriors have shown. Now, I'm a Laker fan, but you can't tell me Jerry West's involvement
Oh man.
You know, didn't trickle down. That doesn't trickle down. And
Right.
you see the LA Clippers now hiring because they're saying, look, we've seen your work. We saw what you did in Memphis. So you bring in a Pau Gasol, you bring in a Marc Gasol. It's like he's the alchemist, which is, you know, I mean, if for those who've read The Alchemist, everything Jerry West is turning into is gold. He is the logo. So you look at what he did in Memphis. You bring it in a Marc and Pau Gasol, and you see where Memphis is now. They're on a decline now. Unfortunately, I got a chance to meet the Gasol brothers All-Star Weekend, so those are a couple of my favorite players outside of Kobe. Great guys on the court and off the court. But you see what Memphis did. You saw what he does. You saw what he did with LA, and you see how they drafted. You know, people are complaining about the super team with Kevin Durant. But I say, listen, all the work that a great show, by the way, Open Court, they just had it last night, and they had all the executives on there. They had Houston, Daryl Morey, you know, Demps from New Orleans, and they had Golden State, you had Dallas, and you had Miami. And the word that just kept coming up was culture and identity and program, system and structure. Again, accountability, what we're expecting out of you and what you're expecting out of us. Yes, the dollars, you know, the dollar with the new, you know, collective bargaining agreement and money, it's a business. Yes. But do you want to go to work? And you look and see what Golden State did. They drafted their asses off. And, you know, you see a Draymond Green. You see a Steph Curry, who just 3-4 years ago was being called injury prone and almost Grant Hill-esque ankle injuries. People have quickly soon forget Klay Thompson, whose father was a basketball player, who's probably has one of the prettiest releases, most efficient, cleanest strokes, jump shots in the game. You top to bottom, you're looking at the coaching staff. Luke Walton, my Laker, does so well that, you know, he was one of the most highly touted coaches coming out when he said, I couldn't wait for my Lakers to grab him. So, and now he goes from Golden State as a coach. Steve Kerr, you know, that guy, Michael Jordan, Bulls, 6 rings. They have a pedigree, and I was, again, pedigree, a culture. They want to be great, and they want to make sure everybody wins. So is that a championship for some players? No. But can you take a JaVale McGee, who's been a knucklehead, and show him what it really, how valuable he will be to himself when he contributes? So right. Even if the Golden State Warriors don't win a championship, you've now allowed JaVale McGee to see how great he can be as a person, as an individual, as a competitor, as a player. And so now you get to see some of the things that he does. Camaraderie, brotherhood, leadership, top to bottom, the Golden State. It was great. Like I love what Golden State is doing, and then it allows them to get a Kevin Durant.
Right,
Kevin
that's
Durant
exactly.
said, "Hey, I just want to be part of that, and I don't really care what you guys say. I don't really care what you do. I will go over there and I will enjoy my life." And I think that's what you see with Kevin Durant. And if you want to dig deep, you can kind of see that going on with Kyrie. So you got both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, too. We wrote an article about Kevin Durant, and a few of them, actually, and why he went to Golden State, and culture was the number one reason. Now, I would argue and say I think it is impacting him personally, as we're seeing. This is, you know, once you make a decision, you have to be willing to live with that decision, because people are going to say something, and people are allowed to say something, and I think that's impacting him some. But at the same time, what's great for him is once he's inside that room, once he's on the court with his guys, he can remove all those distractions. Now, I think once they disappear for the summer and they do their own thing, I think that's when, you know, the voices can get in your head a little bit. But that's the great thing about the culture. And we talk about people when they come to work at our business. It's like, this is your happy space. There's amazing things you can get done here. This is your incubator. Yeah, the world is, everyone's got crazy stuff going on. But when you come here, you can block all that out and do amazing work. And we want to provide that culture for everyone to say, when you're here, you can do amazing work and you can be as happy as you can be. And that's what you're talking about with, you know, Kevin Durant and the Warriors and just culture in general. But then I would say, you know, as much as you talk about culture, does your biggest fear in your business then become the opposite of that, bad culture, or is it something else that kind of keeps you up at night when it comes to your business?
I think, good question, great question. I don't think, I'm at a point now, and you know, where again, it's the beauty of it. I'm learning from everything. So I think for me, though, the only thing that I'm really fearful of is just often not educating and giving all the tools to my clients. That's the only thing that makes me nervous now. And it's a great point that you brought up with Kevin Durant. You see that once he leaves that culture, he's susceptible. We see the things on Twitter. We see that, and it's like, man, for somebody to be in that position, you called it right on the head. Once he leaves, you kind of see it. You kind of see that energy. You start to see that that negative energy coming in. Mm-hmm. For me, the only time where I really get nervous is, like I said, if I feel like my clients I didn't give them the tools to succeed. And I would say, look, listen, if I talk to you, I had a walk-in client the other day. She got great referrals from Greece. Ironically, there's in one of my gyms, we have the Greeks, and she mentioned it too, so she came in. And I told her, I said, we talked about The Alchemist and very similar things that we're talking about now in life. And I told her, I said, listen, she said, you're so happy. I said, listen, if I never see you again, at least I know I gave you everything. Those are all the tools I've given you. And with my business, that's my main goal. No, I don't. The last thing I want to hear would be that somebody said, "Hey, look, listen, that guy, he didn't give me anything. I didn't like it or whatever." And again, people are going to say whatever they want. But for me, I always hang my hat on and say, "Look, listen, I'm just here to help you." And support comes and looks in so many different ways, and that fear is slowly starting to not exacerbate. Like now. I see so much good in what I can do that how can I really take a loss? Well, what necessarily is a loss for me? What is necessarily a loss for my client? If I can give them all the tools that I can to tack on 5 to 10 years in their life, without them even paying me, I did my job.
Yeah.
As a client, I may say, hey, look, listen, well, what happened, Zach? Did you retain them? I have a pretty high retainment. And that I'm very, very proud of because of the relationships I built. But early on, things that I struggled with, I said, well, what if they don't want to work with me anymore? Or what if they leave me? What's going to happen? I said, well, answer the question. What is going to happen? Are they going to, you showed them how to meal prep, and now I'll tell my clients, I said, hey, we're going to become workout buddies soon. You're going to be my trainer soon, because when you give somebody all the tools to do that they can, it's a beautiful thing, because I kind of begin to say, well, you really don't necessarily need me anymore. And they say, oh, no, Zach, you're so good. And I say, I'm serious. You know how to meal prep now. You know how to manage your time now. You know how to, you've gotten to a point now where we've fixed your schedule. You learn the value, the valuable asset of investing in yourself. This is not like a payment. This is an investment. And you look up a year or two down the line, you're where you want to be, and thriving and growing and getting better each day. And it's not necessarily that you no longer need my services. It's just I tell them, this was a summer where I actually said, hey, you guys are in a great position. I really only need to see you once a week. Yeah, but I want to see you 3 times a week. I say, okay, cool. Because I said they are living their life at the fullest, and that's my job.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure that I give everyone all the tools. So that fear is almost like each day, every talk, every client, I'm like, wow. She asked me, that lady said, she said, well, I'm looking at other gyms and I make sure, and I said, that's all right. And she said, yeah, so what, and my friend asked me, well, what happens if she doesn't come back? I said, well, that's okay. And I told him, I literally told her, I said, I'm so excited for you. She was 60 years old, and I told her, I said, I'm so excited for you and your journey, because you're pretty aware of what you're going through, and you could always call, you could always talk to me, we get to lunch or something, because I just wanted, you remind me of my grandparents, and I lost my grandparents, and that was big for me. I had a big health, almost, and just to be honest, I would argue with my grandmother for days on end about, health concerns, and me and my family, we would really sit down at the table and have some real strong conversation around how we're going to support, my grandparents in their transitioning. And I said, hey, listen, I'm excited. I was excited for that client to tell her, hey, listen, you're in a good space. And that's my job, to make sure people can support people to win.
Yeah. Well, you're taking your fear, turning it into an obstacle, and just going through or over that obstacle. And it's everything that you're doing. It's your passion, your excitement. Obviously, that's why we're so excited to have you on this podcast. So, I mean, I really appreciate, I know our listeners would really appreciate all, how in depth you go. Typically we like to keep these to around an hour or so, or a little bit less, but like some of the stuff that you're bringing and the conversations you're having with us are so important that I think it's just important to let it go. Don't go anywhere, because we are going into some rapid fire questions right after this message. We would like to take a quick moment to tell you about an organization we work closely with called RODS, which stands for Racing for Orphans with Down Syndrome. We are a proud supporter of RODS Racing. The RODS mission is to nurture a positive image of Down syndrome, to promote awareness for the adoption of orphans with Down syndrome, and by participating in organized athletic races and awareness events. Ultimately, the goal is to find homes for all orphans with Down syndrome. Because of our relationship with the founder of RODS, Brady Murray, we are honored to be able to contribute our work in the area of marketing to create even more awareness around RODS and their mission. You can learn more about RODS at rods.org. That ends a more thoughtful type of approach. What we want to do now is go into a more rapid fire approach. So we'll ask you some questions. We'll go quick. You respond quick. We'll move on to the next one. So you ready to get started?
Let's go. Rapid fire.
All right, let's do it.
I'm with it.
What book are you reading right now?
Tribal Leadership.
How are you reading it?
How am I reading it?
Yeah, is that Kindle, paperback?
Paperback.
Okay.
Fast and paperback.
Okay, I like it. What is your favorite social media network and why?
Instagram, because it has everything. Everything.
It does.
It does everything.
It's hot right
everything.
now. It's hot. What's the
it's hot.
What's the social media app that has you the most confused?
Snapchat, man.
Yeah.
Snapchat.
Yeah.
It's weird as it is, Snapchat.
Popular answer.
It's a lot of Snapchat. I don't know if I can sit and watch, nonsense sometimes. It's like little subtle things.
Yeah.
Like at least Instagram, the content's good. Snap sometimes has a lot of nonsense.
Well, you can get a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, and I see it. Like you have the stories going within Instagram. You might be able to create more of an audience with Snapchat. It would be the only suggestion I would have is maybe, duplicate, repurpose that content from Instagram, download those videos, put them onto Snapchat, which you can do now. That might be an option for you, and just because other people might be in that platform, so you might get some kids or some younger people that are using that platform, and that might be a way for other people to learn, like, man, I need to talk to this guy. I like him. So that's one option. What phone app is most important to you?
Text.
Yeah? You communicate most with text?
Yeah, most people text. Ironically, most people text. I even have some older clients talking about text me now, which was that was the eye opener.
Yeah.
The old heads are texters now, so I think that's a game changer.
Wait till they move to Snapchat and you start going back and forth on Snapchat with them.
Yeah, they moved. The old head moves from Facebook to text messages now. That's
great.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. So what's the one thing you would tell an up-and-coming entrepreneur to focus on?
Growth in themselves. Confidence and growth in themselves. Business is business, but it does not define who you are as a person.
I like it.
It's just that simple.
Yeah,
that's simple.
It is that simple. What's a quick personal story that got you where you are today?
Like I said, I chose wealth. My grandparents. My grandparents. Real quick. My grandmother. We fought like cats and dogs. As a personal trainer, who would be able to tell one of their family members? And so that was me, Evelyn Jones. She raised me. Beautiful woman. One of the first responders at the Greensboro riots, smart woman in the health realm, She had a stroke, 85% brain damage, and for 2 weeks I just watched the joy of a woman who couldn't speak and who couldn't talk. And every day I got the chance to go in that hospice, hold her hand, pray for her, give her jokes, feed her Pepsi through a straw. She loved Pepsi, and I really began to appreciate what life truly is. And then 2 years later, the same thing with my grandma Dora. Same thing, in the kitchen, stroke, 85% brain damage. And so those are two women that really taught me how to pray, really gave me the passion of really understanding how valuable life is. And I want to make sure everybody gets to enjoy their life to the fullest and not let health limit them or prohibit them from being the best, giving themselves the best life. So
yeah,
I think that would be it.
Yeah. So you've talked about this before. I want to dig real quick deeper into this. You suffered a setback. You were going to run the New York City Marathon. You injured your knee. Give us a quick update on your injury and how you're going to bounce back from this and use it as motivation.
Oh, motivation. So the weird thing about it, a grade 2 strain. So what would happen is the diagnosis was for me to rest. 26.2 miles is not resting. So no,
I don't think so. No.
Right. So the funny thing was, I'm in the room and I said, "Oh, so I can still run." And he's like, "Yeah." I'm not saying you can't run. I'm just saying the rest. That's asinine to rest for a month and a half and then turn around and give it the heaviest workload you've probably done in the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm in really good shape. It was just one of those things where you say it's not timing. And I always say, for me, the way I'm going to use it is to not get caught up in how it looks. A lot of times, often we get caught up in how things look. We want it to look a certain way. We want things to be done. You say, "Hey, I'm going to do A. I want to do A." And then you realize you can't do A. It's almost like, oh, man. So there's no beat up behind this one. There's no, the only thing I mentioned earlier, that culture. The culture around New York City. Everybody's just so, energy and going. I was really looking forward to the experience of running the New York City Marathon with so many people there and so much energy. And guess what? I still get to be a part of that, even though I'm not running. So I'll be there, rocking out with them. And right after that, I'll be going to New York City, Madison Square Garden for November 4th, UFC card, Randy Brown. So make sure everybody looks out for that. It's November 4th, UFC.
Yeah.
2017, I think it is, Madison Square Garden, Randy Brown. So he's going to be fighting Mickey Gall. And so I'm excited about that. Even though I'm not running, I still get to be in contribution and be a part of that energy.
Yeah.
So it won't be 26.2 with a bid, but it will be 26.2 full of support, love, and pushing. And that's the reason why, if anybody hasn't done it, go volunteer at a marathon so you can help people and you can see that fight and you can be the energy when people don't have that energy. You can be the pickup, you can be the lift. And that's the cool thing about what I'm taking from that. Turn the negative into a positive, that, hey, look, listen, I can't run, so let me help support people who can run and run for a good cause or run for themselves, because guess what? I'm always running in what I do to what makes me happy. So these people chose to run. Let's run with them and let's support them. So.
And you're putting yourself right in the thick of it, like you're saying, in the center of attention, where there's an amazing amount of energy going around, obviously just in New York City alone, which we know you're a huge fan of. So I'm sure that's going to be pretty awesome for you.
Can't wait.
And so, real quick, who are some of the athletes that you're training? You've talked a little bit about it. You just mentioned a fight that's coming up. Let's give a shout out to them real quick.
Yeah, you got Randy Brown coming up November 4th. We just actually, Sunday, we're doing ice baths, 2 minutes in the ice tub, 2 minutes in the hot tub machine, 2 minutes at the ice. As if you've ever submerged yourself in a complete tub of ice water, tag me. That is crazy. It's a crazy experience. So you got Randy Brown. Andre Harrison is coming up, I think, for the Pro Fight League in January. So those are the two guys that are coming up right now. We've got I got a couple of guys right now on the Oklahoma State team balling out. So it's a lot of guys, but the two that are coming up for sure, Randy Brown, November 4th. Andre's kicking off his World Pro Fight League. It used to be called World Series of Fighting in January. They're starting a big tournament up. So those are the two big ones right now. So
okay.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, as you should be. So now you're in New York. Who's your favorite NFL team?
Woo, man. Listen, at heart I'm an Oakland Raider fan, but
Okay.
I have to root for the G-men and some consistency from Eli. Oh
Yeah.
man, and a line. They need a line. I think
Yeah.
they still have the line, and they'll be good. So I'm
Yeah.
a G-men supporter.
Okay,
Giants
so we're
supporter.
recording the show. It's going to come out a couple weeks probably, but as it stands now, the Giants have not won. 0-3, right? I think we're in
0-3.
0-3. The
yeah.
Jets actually have a better record than the Giants. Like when the season started, did you think that there was a chance that might happen?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. My big shout out to my best friends, Hassan and Yusuf. They're twins also as well. A lot of twins. I know a lot of twins.
Yeah.
Hassan is a Giants fan, and Yusuf is a Jets fan. And I told we joke on Eli because he's so inconsistent. And Hassan called every year they win the Super Bowl. Hassan called it record, playoff, how they were going to do it, and everything. So he always holds that trump card over us. But I told him, I said, listen, man, I'm not sold on Eli this year because of that line. And Eli's not the guy to, make plays with his feet or anything like that. And you have all these receivers. You got a Brandon Marshall, you got an Odell, you got Shepard. You went and got a nice tight end, one of the top two tight ends. And I said, but he doesn't have a line. I said, I don't know if he's going to. I said, this is a make or break year for Eli. That's what I said. And so I told him, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets opened up earlier than y'all. So I called it.
Yeah, that's good. I did not see it coming. No, and I mean the Giants were. You're right. The line means so much, and they've struggled. That offense has struggled. So I don't know where they go from here.
Jets defense isn't.
No, it's not.
Jets defense with the Jets defense was they had all those tools. They just underperformed. So I told them, I said, you got some young whippersnappers in there. They'll give some fight.
Yep.
Like that, like young kids. You like young, not kids, but young guys coming into the league. They're hungry, and when a team is projected to bottom out, those guys are coming in there with nothing to lose, and they can make a couple plays and change a game up and surprise somebody.
Yep.
Where opposed to the G-men were hyped. I've seen them projected to be one of the top teams in the NFC. They beat the Cowboys all year last year, so they were projected pretty high. And guess what? Now the G-men are underperforming, and maybe feeling some pressure, and the Jets are carefree. They're just trying to play.
That's right. You're right. No, it applies to so many different things. All right, so now we've covered that. I think we probably agree then that neither of the New York teams, the New York City teams, that is. I'm a Bills fan, and I think we can agree they're not going to the Super Bowl. So who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? I mean, it's still early and things are going to change, and this is overreaction time, I like to call it, in the NFL. People are like, oh, this team's no good, and the next thing you know, they go on a 5-game winning streak and things change. But if we were to look out right now, who do you think? And I mean, you can pick Brady and the Patriots if you want, but I'd rather you not. So who's going to win the Super Bowl?
As a Raider fan, we still hold on to that fake rule that they've now taken out, that tuck rule. So as much as I do not want to give the Patriots, let's see. So when talk about, listen, man, Tom's a killer, man. Tom is terrific. After seeing what he did, but if I had to put some money down, I hate to do it, man. Just to be honest, man. Atlanta. If I'm not going with New Orleans, if I'm not going with New England, if I'm not going with New England, I do like what Atlanta has. They have the old culture. I'm a big Pete Carroll guy. So if you look at Atlanta, I think they've got the defensive coach from Seattle. So I think it may have been the cornerback coach, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got that Atlanta defense firing off. And if you look at it, they had the game, they had the Super Bowl, man.
Oh, yeah, it was theirs. Yep.
And that's okay. That happens. That happens to a young team. That happens. And they look almost better. They look even better. They look like they'll be getting if they can keep Julio healthy, then I'll take the Falcons. And also the main reason too, the reason why I won't say the Pats though, the Pats have some injuries coming up. They got a lot of injuries coming up.
Building up.
And anybody who knows the Patriots, Bill Belichick holds his injury report pretty tight, and he'll just call it out to the last minute. If you look right before week one, I think look at all the moves that they made. The Patriots never make that many moves, and you saw it happen week one. That's why they went and got Cooks. The receivers looked like they had pre-existing injuries. it looked like they were just waiting for the season to start and get hit before they say they had,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of injuries on defense
That's
and offense. And Tom is good, but man, Atlanta's looking like they're a complete team. So.
I like it. No, and then you talk about the culture. It's funny. Before they changed coaches, Mike Smith was there, and they went up and down, but they had some good years when he was there. But one of his, and it's funny, I saw him speak at an event in Atlanta, and he had John Gordon. John Gordon's the author that wrote The Energy Bus, and they were one of the first teams to bring John Gordon in. And they talk about how John Gordon talks about how when he spoke, Matt Ryan would be like in the front row, and every day Matt Ryan's coming up to him, asking him questions after question, and just looking to get better. And so that culture might have been built a long time ago, and then you bring a guy, like you said, one of Pete Carroll's guys in there, and to add to that and to add players and to make that defense better than it's been, man, I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, I guess is what we're saying, and Atlanta's kind of proven that out a little bit. Even though they didn't win last year, they had an incredible run, and who knows, maybe they do it like you just said this year. So I like your looks and the deep look you give into the Patriots, and I think we might have to have another podcast episode with you, and we just talk sports for an hour or something. We'll have to do that. So, man,
That's my language. Sports.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's our language too.
Yeah. So before we let you go, though, I want to give you some give some words of encouragement to the audience, and then follow that up with how people can connect with you. Maybe on social. So your turn to bring it home.
Oh man, so to bring it home. So words to the audience. Always, just keep growing, keep doing, keep being. With so much going on, like I said, the art and athlete, you can find me on Instagram, art_of_athlete, art of athlete. Zachary Hooks on Facebook. Geez, I'm all over the place. And my website is infiniteshadesofwellness.com. That's where you can find me at. And just like I said, you can keep growing and don't get caught up in how it looks. It's so much going on in the world today, whether it's news and media. Pray for Houston. Please pray for Houston. Please pray for the Caribbean islands. Contributions to Puerto Rico. All that you see that's going on. It's almost like every day something's going on.
Yeah.
And what we sometimes lose sight of is that with all that bad, there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's a lot of amazing stuff. And so try to take each day with that, what can we bring to the table to uplift, to help, and that's the beauty of it, man. That's the art, and that's going to come in with different ways. Do what serves you, do what makes you happy, run towards that, and that's it. That's the message I'm always going to roll with. Do what makes you happy, man. You will die. Gary Vee says you will die. You're going to die.
Yep.
So I'm going to shoot it real quick. You're going to die. So let's have fun and let's do it now and enjoy all of that. So if it's sports, man, definitely check out Sportstrepreneur. Definitely check me out at Art of Athlete. If you love sports, that's something that I do. If you love dancing, dance. If you love singing, sing. If you like reading and writing, read The Alchemist. That's one of my favorite books. Read Tribal Leadership. So you've got all these tools. It would behoove you to use them all. Why not? Russell Westbrook says why not? So why not, man?
Why not, man? I love it. And keep growing. I just got to say, man, it has been so awesome having you on this podcast. And I mean, you speak the truth. You have a lot of passion. I've said it many times. And so, Zach, just thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast, and keep doing what you do, and we'll be watching.
Thank you for having me.
Zach, it was absolutely awesome having you on this podcast. From the excitement Zach brings to training people, to his genuine caring of others, to his love of all art, Zach is a great example of how to enjoy every moment while on the roller coaster ride of being an entrepreneur. The perspectives he brings of being a fitness trainer, and on this podcast specifically, are now perspectives you as a business owner and entrepreneur can use for yourself. And for that, Zach, thank you. And for any business owner or entrepreneur that is looking for some guidance on how to get started on their fitness journey, or if you're just looking for some motivation, I would encourage you to reach out to Zach. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can contact me on Twitter at Eric_Kaz, or with the same name on Instagram. Or you can find us on KazSource.com with links to us on the different social networks. Thank you for listening to our KazSource podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time. Until next time, we're out of here. A big thanks to Rods Racing for their support of this podcast and allowing us to contribute to their inspiring cause. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It's a big deal to us. We hope you found value in it, and if you did, we would be incredibly grateful if you gave us a review on iTunes. Remember to subscribe to this podcast and feel free to share it with anyone you know. More than anything, thank you again for listening. We appreciate it.